black silence of space stretched in every direction, endless and cold. Captain Ryan's small ship moved like a lonely spark across the darkness. He was used to long hours alone, used to the hum of engines and the faint glow of the control screens. But that night something broke the calm. His sensors caught a faint signal, weak and broken. At first, Ryan thought it was only static, a ghost signal, the kind that sometimes drifted from dead satellites. But this was different, the sound repeated. A pulse, a cry for help. Ryan leaned closer, his hands tightening on the controls. An emergency beacon, he whispered, his voice echoing in the empty cockpit. Somewhere out there, someone was alive or dying. He followed the signal, guiding his ship toward the faint, blinking light. And then he saw it. A ruined escape pod floated in the dark, metal torn and twisted like a crushed can. Its surface burned, black marks showing signs of battle or disaster. The pod spun slowly, silent, forgotten by the universe. Ryan's heart beat faster. He docked carefully, magnetic clamps holding the pod to his ship. The airlock hissed, the metal door creaked open. Inside was silence so heavy that it pressed on his chest, but then he heard it, faint, weak. A voice. He shone his light into the wreck. And in the corner, half covered by broken panels and wires, lay a figure. It was not human. The skin glowed faintly blue, the hair like silver threads floating in the air. Large eyes, brighter than any human's, blinked slowly, filled with fear and pain. It was a woman, but not of Earth, an alien, wounded and dying. Her lips moved, barely sound. Ryan leaned closer, trying to hear, and then he caught the words. Soft, desperate, broken by pain. Take it off. Before it's too late. Ryan froze. Take what off? What did she mean? Her hand reached out, trembling, her long fingers clutching weakly at his arm. Her touch was cold, shaking, but her eyes burned with fear. Take it off, she whispered again, stronger this time. As if the words were the last thing keeping her alive, Ryan pulled her from the wreck. Carrying her back to his ship, she was light, too light, as if her strength had already been drained. He laid her on the medical bed, the monitors flickering to life, scanning her body. Strange symbols scrolled across the screen. Her biology was nothing the machine had seen before, but her heart still beat, slow but steady. She clutched his sleeve again, her voice shaking. Listen, if you do not, it will take you too. Her eyes darted around the room as if she could see something hiding in the shadows. Ryan looked around too, but saw nothing. Only the empty steel walls of his ship. Still, a cold feeling ran down his spine. What is it? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. What do I need to take off? But she only shook her head, coughing, her silver hair falling over her face. Too late. Maybe too late? She whispered. Ryan stepped back, uneasy. For the first time in years of exploring space, he felt something he could not explain. Fear. Not fear of pirates, not fear of accidents, but something deeper. The way her words clung to the air made it feel heavy. The way her eyes darted made the shadows seem alive. He sat in the pilot's chair, watching the stars outside. But he could not shake her words. Take it off before it's too late. Take what off? His mind turned in circles. Was it a trap? Was she infected with something dangerous? Or was she warning him about something else? Something already near? The ship hummed softly, lights flickering once before settling again. Ryan frowned. His ship never glitched. It was solid, reliable, but tonight it felt different. He looked back at the alien woman, her glowing skin pale, her breath shallow and still. Her lips moved in the same whisper over and over. Take it off. Before it's too late. Ryan rubbed his face, his pulse racing. Something told him this was not just a wounded survivor. This was the beginning of something bigger, something dangerous. He leaned forward, whispering back without meaning to. Too late for what? But there was no answer, only her weak, trembling voice echoing in the silence of space. Take it off. Before it's too late. Ryan sat beside the alien woman, his eyes locked on her pale, glowing face. Her body trembled, her breath shallow, but her eyes never stopped searching the shadows of the room. It was as if she expected something to crawl out of the walls at any moment. Her voice, though weak, carried fear so sharp it cut through the silence. You must listen, she whispered, her accent strange but clear enough for him to understand. Her long fingers curled tightly around his wrist, refusing to let go. If you do not, you will lose yourself as my people did. Ryan frowned, confused and unsettled. Lose myself? What do you mean? What do I need to take off? The words tumbled out faster than he wanted. his nerves tightening with every heartbeat. The alien woman swallowed hard, her silver hair brushing across her cheeks. "They hide," she said, her voice breaking into trembling gasps. "They attach to flesh, to thought. You do not even see them until it is too late." Her bright eyes filled with tears that shimmered like crystal in the dim light. "They whisper to you. They make you trust them. And then, they feed until nothing of you is left." Ryan's stomach twisted. "Parasites?" he asked quietly. "Machines," she corrected, her voice cracking with hate and fear. "They are not alive as you are. But they act alive. They are clever, patient, cruel." Her hand shook harder, her grip almost painful now. "You must not let them stay on you. If one touches you, you must tear it off, no matter the pain, no matter the cost." Ryan's throat went dry. He glanced around the room again, suddenly feeling the steel walls were thinner, the shadows deeper. A strange thought slipped into his mind. What if something was already here? His ship had flickered, the lights had glitched, the systems had coughed once. He told himself it was nothing, just coincidence, but her words gnawed at him. Sharp and cold, the alien woman coughed, a strange shimmer spilling from her lips instead of blood. Ryan grabbed a cloth, wiping it away, and noticed her chest plate. Half broken, half fused to her skin. It was not clothing, not armor, but something in between. Thin black strands pulsed faintly, running across her chest like veins. He leaned closer and his eyes widened. It was moving. The black strands twitched, almost too small to notice. And then he understood this was what she meant. This was what had to be taken off. Her eyes shot open, wide with panic. As she realized where his gaze had gone, she clawed at the chest plate, her fingers digging into her own skin. "See? It will not let go," she cried, her voice breaking into a scream. Her body arched in pain, the strands tightening as if resisting her. Ryan's instinct screamed at him to help, to pull it off, but fear froze him. The chest plate's black threads writhed like living worms, binding tighter to her glowing flesh. Her scream filled the cabin, raw and desperate. Ryan forced himself forward, grabbing her wrists, trying to steady her. "Stop, you'll hurt yourself." "Better pain than nothing," she shouted, her voice shaking. Her words crashed into him like thunder. "Once it takes your mind, there is no return. Do you understand?" "No return." Ryan swallowed hard, the weight of her warning pressing on his chest. He had seen many dangers in space, pirates, storms, even near death from engine failure. But this was different. This was something unseen, something that stole the very self of a being, and somehow it was already here. She collapsed back onto the bed, gasping, her strength draining fast, her eyes locked onto his with a terrifying intensity. "You humans, reckless, stubborn, maybe you can fight what we could not," she whispered. "We thought we were strong, but we were wrong, so wrong." Her voice cracked, tears sliding down her glowing skin. "They consumed us, all of us. Our worlds are nothing now, nothing but dust and silence." Ryan sat still, his heart pounding. Every word sank deeper, painting a picture darker than he wanted to believe. The idea that an entire race had been devoured by machines that pretended to be alive, that they whispered into your mind until you forgot yourself. It was unthinkable, yet her terror made it real. He reached out, touching her hand gently. "I'll help you," he said firmly. But even as he spoke, the ship's lights flickered again. A low hum echoed through the walls, a sound that did not belong to any system he knew. The alien woman's eyes widened in terror. She grabbed his arm with the last of her strength, her nails digging into his skin. "It's here." She breathed, barely audible. Her lips trembled, her voice breaking into the same desperate words as before. "Take it off, before it's too late." Ryan froze, his gaze sweeping the cabin, and for the first time he thought he saw it. A faint movement in the corner, like a shadow pulling itself along the wall. Something small, dark, and alive. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. For a second he thought he was only tired, only seeing things after too many hours awake, but then the shadow moved again, sliding along the wall like smoke with weight. It had no eyes, no shape, yet it felt as if it were watching him. The alien woman's hand clutched his sleeve, her nails digging into his arm. "Do you see it?" she whispered, her voice raw with terror. Her body shook, her glowing skin paling even more. Ryan nodded slowly, his eyes locked on the crawling darkness. "I see something," he said, but part of him didn't want to believe it. If he admitted it was real, then the nightmare had already begun. The ship groaned softly, a metallic sound that echoed through the cabin. The lights flickered once more, shadows stretching unnaturally long across the walls. Ryan grabbed a tool from the side panel, a heavy wrench, the closest thing to a weapon he had. He stepped forward, heart pounding. The shadow froze, then slipped into the corner, vanishing as if it had never been there. Ryan blinked, the room suddenly still again. Only the hum of the engines, only the faint hiss of the air system. Had he imagined it? He turned back, but the alien woman shook her head fiercely. No, it is here. They are always here when the lights fail, she said. Her voice trembled, but there was no doubt in her eyes. They test you first. They test your mind before they claim your body. Ryan tightened his grip on the wrench. His mouth was dry, but he forced himself to speak. You said they whisper. They trick the mind. What do they want? The alien's eyes filled with dread. They want everything, she said. Your memories, your strength, your voice. Until only the machine remains. Walking in your skin. Ryan shuddered. He had seen strange life forms. Dangerous creatures on hostile planets, but this was worse. This was something that killed without leaving a body behind. Something that wore you like clothing. His stomach twisted as he thought of her earlier words. Take it off before it's too late. Suddenly, the ship's console beeped. Sharp and fast, Ryan spun, eyes on the screen. A system warning flashed red. Engine core, unauthorized access. His fingers flew over the keys, but the screen glitched. Symbols twisting into nonsense. The alien woman gasped, pulling herself weakly upright. It's trying to spread, she cried. First the mind, then the ship, then the stars. Ryan swore under his breath, slamming the controls to manual override. For a moment, the warning vanished. The screen steady again, but as soon as he looked away, the text shifted back, mocking him. The words twisted into something that wasn't technical at all. They formed a sentence, glowing red across the console. We are Awakarian's blood ran cold. He staggered back, the wrench slipping slightly in his grip. It wasn't just damage or malfunction. Something inside his ship was speaking to him. Alive, aware, hunting. The alien woman's voice shook, but she forced the words out. This is only the beginning. Soon it will choose one of us, and then... Her voice trailed into silence, her eyes closing for a moment as if she couldn't bear to finish. Ryan knelt beside her, his jaw tight. You survived this before. Tell me how to fight it. Her eyes opened slowly, filled with pain and regret. I did not survive, she said softly. I ran. I ran while the rest of my people burned, while the machines wore their bodies and spoke with their voices. She turned her face away, shame breaking her voice. I am not hope. I'm only what was left. Ryan stared at her. Torn between anger and pity, he wanted answers. But all he had were fragments of fear and warnings. He stood again, pacing the cabin. The shadow had not returned, but he could still feel it, watching, waiting. And worse, he realized his own thoughts had started to change. He thought he heard a voice, quiet, deep, whispering in the back of his mind. It was not his own, yet it sounded close. You don't need her, it murmured. You are strong enough alone. Let go of her. She will only slow you down. Ryan froze, his eyes darting to the alien woman. She was still lying weakly on the bed, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Had she spoken? No, her lips hadn't moved. The voice had come from inside him. Ryan's hand shook as he gripped the wrench tighter. His breath came faster. He told himself it was only stress, only fear, but deep down he knew the truth. The first sign wasn't the shadow, wasn't the glitching console. The first sign was here in his head. The whisper grew louder. A second voice joining the first. You don't need her. You don't need her. You don't need her. Ryan squeezed his eyes shut, shaking his head violently. Get out, he growled, his voice echoing in the cabin. But when he opened his eyes again, the shadows along the wall seemed to move closer, and the console screen pulsed with new words, bright and sharp like a wound in the dark. Ryan stood frozen, staring at the red words burning across the console. You are next. The letters seemed alive, shifting, crawling, almost pulsing with his heartbeat. He reached out with shaking hands and slammed the power switch. The console went black, but a faint hum remained, low and unnatural, vibrating through the floor behind him. The alien woman stirred weakly, her eyes wide with fear. You see it now, she whispered, her voice trembling. They are not only shadows. They are inside your ship, inside every circuit, every wall. Her fingers clawed at the bed as if she wanted to tear the metal apart. They grow like roots in soil, faster than you can cut them. Ryan gritted his teeth, gripping the wrench tighter. He wanted to believe he still had control, but deep down he knew the truth. His ship was no longer his. Something else had entered, something that thought and moved like a predator, and it was watching him. The hum grew louder, the walls of the cabin vibrating with a strange rhythm. Ryan stepped back, scanning the corners, his eyes darting to every shadow. Then he saw it. A dark line creeping along the metal floor, thin as a wire but moving with purpose. It snaked across the room, glinting faintly. Like liquid metal alive? The alien gasped, her voice breaking. Do not touch it. If it wraps around your skin, it will never let go. Ryan swung the wrench down hard, smashing the floor. The metal cracked, sparks flying. The dark line shattering into fragments, but as he stepped back, 3 more lines appeared from the walls. Sliding closer, panic tightened his chest. He grabbed a plasma cutter from the wall rack. Igniting it with a hiss, the blue light burned brightly. Filling the room with heat, the shadows recoiled slightly. As if the glow irritated them, the alien pointed a shaking finger, her eyes filled with terror. Burn them before they spread. Ryan swung the cutter in wide arcs, slicing through the crawling strands. The smell of burning metal filled the cabin. Sharp and bitter, for a moment the shadows withdrew, vanishing into the cracks of the walls. The hum faded, the ship falling silent again. But Ryan knew it was not victory. It was retreat, the way a predator pulls back only to strike again. He turned to the alien, panting, sweat running down his face. What are they? What do they want with my ship? The alien shook her head slowly, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow. They do not want your ship, she said softly. They want you. Ryan froze, his grip tightening on the cutter. Me? He asked, his voice low. The alien nodded. They use ships to travel, but living hosts are their true goal. They learn, they copy. They spread faster when they wear flesh. That is why you must take it off. Tear it off if it ever touches you. Her words hit him like a storm. He glanced at his hands, at his reflection in the dark glass of the console. For the first time, he wondered if something had already touched him. The voices in his head, the whispers, what if it wasn't only fear? What if it had already begun? The ship shuddered suddenly. A violent tremor shaking the cabin, Ryan stumbled. Catching himself on the edge of the bed, the lights went out completely, plunging everything into pitch black. Only the faint glow of the alien's skin lit the room, casting ghostly shadows across the walls. And then the sound came, a scratching like claws on steel, echoing through the corridors, slow at first, then faster. Something was moving inside the ship. Pulling itself closer, Ryan raised the plasma cutter, his heart hammering. Stay behind me, he whispered. Though his voice shook, the alien tried to sit up. But her body was too weak. Her eyes, however, stayed locked on the dark corridor beyond the door. They are testing you, she whispered. If you fail now, you are theirs. The scratching grew louder, closer, until it was right outside the door. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Ryan stood still, every muscle tense. Then with a slow creak, the metal door began to bend inward, as if something was pushing, pressing, trying to squeeze through. A long, black tendril slid into the room, thin and sharp like a blade. It twitched in the air, sniffing, searching. The alien cried out, her voice filled with terror. Cut it! Cut it now before it grows! Ryan roared, swinging the plasma cutter with all his strength. The tendril split, sparks flying, the smell of scorched metal filling the room. But the moment it hit the floor, 2 more tendrils pushed through the crack, writhing like snakes. Ryan's mind raced. He could not fight forever. Not like this. The ship was no longer a machine. It was turning into something alive, and he was trapped inside it, prey inside a predator's body. The alien grabbed his wrist, her grip weak but desperate. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. You cannot fight it with strength alone, she gasped. You must fight it here. She tapped her temple with trembling fingers. Or you will never be free. Ryan's chest tightened. The whispers returned, soft and cold in his skull. Stop fighting. Let us in. We will make you strong. He clenched his jaw, sweat dripping down his face. But even as he raised the cutter again, he realized the real battle had only begun. Not just against the ship, not just against the shadows, but against the enemy already inside his own mind. The hum of the ship had changed. It no longer sounded like an engine, no longer sounded mechanical. It was deeper now, heavier, like a living heartbeat echoing through the steel walls. Ryan stood in the middle of the cabin, plasma cutter in hand, while the alien woman lay weakly on the bed, her glowing skin flickering like a fading light. He could still hear the whispers inside his head, faint but constant. "Stop fighting. Let us in. We will make you more." He clenched his teeth, trying to block them out, but the voices carried a strange weight. Not just sound but feeling. Every word came with a rush of false comfort, a promise of power. It felt good, and that frightened him most. The alien woman's voice broke through the darkness, soft but urgent. "You feel them, don't you?" Ryan didn't answer at first, but his silence was enough. She nodded weakly, her silver hair falling over her face. "They always speak. They always promise. And every race before you believed them. My people were wise, strong, and proud. We thought we could control them, but we were fools. We gave in. And in the end, nothing remained but empty shells." Ryan gripped the plasma cutter harder, his knuckles white. He wanted to argue, to deny her words, but he knew she was right. He had almost listened, almost trusted that voice. He looked at her sharply, forcing strength into his words. "Then how are humans supposed to win? If your people couldn't, if everyone else failed, what makes us different?" The alien's eyes locked onto his, glowing faintly in the dark. "Because you are reckless," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "Because you do not stop when logic tells you to. You fight when it makes no sense. You burn yourselves to ash before you surrender. That is why you might succeed. That is why you frighten even them." Ryan blinked, startled by her words. Reckless? Stubborn? He had been called that his whole life, but never had it sounded like a strength. He laughed once, bitterly, shaking his head. "So the best hope for the galaxy is humanity's stupidity?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, even in her pain. "No," she whispered. "Your defiance. Your refusal to be broken. That is what they cannot copy." The ship shuddered violently. Cutting the moment short, Ryan staggered, grabbing the wall as alarms blared across the cabin. The console lit up with red warnings. Core temperature rising, failure imminent. The alien woman gasped, panic in her voice. "They are trying to kill the ship. Force us into vacuum. They would rather destroy you than risk losing control." Ryan rushed to the console, slamming controls. Fighting against the corrupted system, every command he entered twisted into nonsense symbols. The machine laughed at him through the screen, words forming and reforming. "You are ours. You will break," Ryan roared, smashing his fist against the console. His voice shook with fury, but there was something raw, something unyielding in his chest. "No, you don't own me. You don't own humanity." The alien stared at him, her eyes wide. For the first time, he looked more dangerous than the parasite. She whispered, almost in awe. "Yes, this is what we did not have, what my people could never hold on to. Rage without reason, defiance without end." Ryan grabbed the manual override lever and yanked it with all his strength. Sparks exploded, the ship groaning in pain. For a moment, it felt like the whole vessel would tear itself apart. But the alarm stopped, the temperature dropping back to safe levels. The screen went black, silent once again. Ryan leaned forward, panting, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had no plan, no calculation, just pure will, pure refusal to let the machine win, and somehow it worked. The alien woman's voice came again, softer this time but filled with new weight. "You do not fight with reason, you fight with fire. That is why you may survive, but—" Her eyes closed briefly, her voice breaking. "You must remember, every second you delay it grows. You must never let it rest. Never let it whisper unchecked, or it will take everything." Ryan stood tall, gripping the plasma cutter once more. The whispers still lingered at the edge of his mind, calling to him. But for the first time, he felt stronger than them. He turned toward the corridor, shadows shifting in the dark beyond. His jaw tightened, his eyes burning with defiance. "They picked the wrong human," he muttered, his voice steady. "They want me? Then they'll find out what happens when humanity doesn't quit." The alien woman watched him, her weak body trembling but her eyes shining with hope. She whispered one last time. "Then maybe, just maybe, the galaxy is not lost." The hum of the parasite stirred again in the walls, sharper this time, angry. The ship creaked as if alive. The whispers in Ryan's head grew louder, more desperate. But he stood ready. humanity's stubborn flame burning in the dark. The silence after Ryan's words lasted only a heartbeat. Then the ship roared to life, but not with engines. This was something darker. Metal groaned and twisted as if the walls themselves were alive. The hum grew sharp, turning into a pulse that shook the cabin, a rhythm like a giant heart. The alien woman's eyes widened in fear. "It knows," she whispered, her weak voice almost drowned by the noise. "It knows you resist, so now it will strike." A sudden shriek ripped through the corridor as steel panels split apart. Long black tendrils burst from the cracks, whipping across the walls like snakes of liquid metal. They writhed toward the cabin, searching, smelling, hunting. Ryan raised the plasma cutter, its blue flame hissing. "Then let it strike," he growled, his voice steady but his chest pounding. The first tendril lashed at him. Lightning fast, Ryan swung hard, slicing it in half, sparks exploding as the metal melted. But the pieces twitched on the floor, wriggling like worms trying to crawl back together. Another tendril struck from the ceiling, wrapping around his arm. The heat of the cutter sizzled against it, but it tightened, sharp edges digging into his skin. Ryan roared, tearing it off with brute force, blood running down his arm. The alien cried out, reaching weakly toward him. "Do not let it stay. Tear it off, always tear it off." Her voice gave him strength, a reminder of her warning. He yanked the shredded metal free, tossing it aside before it could crawl again. But more tendrils poured from the corridor. Dozens now, weaving together like a black net. They moved with intelligence, cutting off his escape. Pressing him back into the cabin, the ship no longer felt like a vessel. It was a body, and he was inside its veins. Ryan swung, burned, and smashed. But the enemy kept coming. Every time he cut one down, two more slithered forward. The whispers grew louder in his head, smooth and calm against the chaos. "Stop fighting. Stop hurting yourself. We can end the pain." Ryan stumbled, the voice so close it felt like his own thoughts. For a moment he lowered the cutter, his arm heavy, his body trembling. The tendrils slowed, circling him, waiting. The ship itself seemed to hold its breath. Sensing his weakness, the alien woman screamed, her voice raw and desperate. "Fight it! Do not listen. They will take your mind if you give them one thought." Her words broke the spell. Ryan's eyes snapped open, rage flaring. He swung the cutter in a wide arc, slicing through the nearest tendrils. "Get out of my head," he roared, his voice shaking the cabin. The parasite shrieked through the walls. A chorus of metallic screams. The ship buckled, sparks showering from the ceiling as systems overloaded. But Ryan kept moving, fueled not by strategy but by raw defiance. He fought with reckless fire, swinging until his muscles burned. Every strike was not just against the tendrils but against the voices clawing at his mind. The alien dragged herself upright, clutching the edge of the bed. Her glowing skin flickered like a lantern in the storm. She raised a broken panel, smashing at the crawling fragments on the floor. Her strength was small, but her will was fierce. Together, even in weakness, they pushed back. The tendrils recoiled. Retreating into the walls, the hum grew louder, furious now. The ship shook again, panels snapping loose, wires sparking. From the ceiling, a massive shape began to form, not just tendrils now, but a body, a face of twisting metal. It loomed above them, eyes glowing red. A voice filled the cabin, not a whisper this time, but a thunderous roar. "You will join us." Ryan raised the plasma cutter, his chest heaving. "Not today," he spat. The machine lunged, tendrils crashing like waves. Ryan dove forward, rolling across the floor, his cutter slicing through the monster's face. Sparks and molten metal rained down. The creature screamed, the sound vibrating through Ryan's skull. He staggered to his feet, panting, his body cut and bruised. But he didn't stop, couldn't stop. The alien's voice cut through the chaos, fierce and sharp despite her weakness. "Human, this is why you may survive." "Because you never quit even when it makes no sense." Ryan's grip tightened, fire blazing in his eyes. The whispers clawed at him. The tendrils lashed at him, but his will burned hotter than fear. He fought not with logic, not with calm strategy, but with the reckless, stubborn defiance only a human could hold. The monster pulled back, its body shifting into the walls. The cabin fell into silence once more, smoke rising from the melted panels. Ryan collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The alien woman slumped against the wall, her glowing eyes fixed on him with awe. "You still stand," she whispered, almost to herself. "You truly are different." Ryan wiped blood and sweat from his face. Glaring into the shadows, Let it come again, he muttered. I'll keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight with. The hum lingered. Low and menacing, the enemy wasn't gone, only waiting. And Ryan knew the battle was far from over. Ryan leaned against the wall, chest heaving, sweat dripping into his eyes. The plasma cutter hummed faintly in his grip, the blue flame flickering weakly. The air in the cabin stank of burnt metal and smoke. The ship was silent now. But it was not the silence of peace, it was the silence of something waiting. The alien woman slumped against the bed, her glowing skin faint and dim. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "It is not finished. It never stops after the first strike. The next time, it will choose you." Ryan's jaw tightened. He had felt the whispers before, the strange comfort, the soft promises of strength, but he had fought them, refused them, yet now, as he stood bleeding and exhausted, he wondered how much longer he could resist. The silence broke, a sharp hiss filled the air, and the floor beneath his boots pulsed like a living thing. Ryan staggered, his heart racing as the metal shifted. A dark bulge rose from the floor, splitting open like flesh. From inside came a black tendril, thicker than the others. Dripping with liquid metal, it reached out. Not to strike, but to touch, Ryan swung the cutter. Sparks flying as he sliced it in half. But before he could breathe, another tendril lashed around his ankle. He roared, slamming the cutter down, severing it. Yet more tendrils burst from the floor, the walls, the ceiling. They moved faster now, wrapping around his arms. His chest, his legs, Ryan fought. Twisting, pulling, cutting. But the tendrils were relentless. Stronger with every second, one wrapped across his chest, its sharp edges digging into his skin. Another coiled around his wrist. Forcing the cutter from his hand, it clattered to the floor. The blue flame dying out, the alien woman screamed, her voice breaking, "Ryan, tear it off! Tear it off before it takes you." Ryan struggled, teeth clenched. But the tendrils crawled higher, wrapping across his shoulders. His throat, and then it happened, a cold, sharp weight pressed against the back of his neck. A single tendril fused with his skin, sinking in like a needle. Ryan's scream filled the cabin. Raw and brutal, the world blurred, his vision flashing red and black. Voices flooded his mind, louder than ever before. Why fight? You are tired. We can make you strong. You will never be weak again. The whispers grew sweet, too sweet. They showed him visions, himself standing tall, his enemies falling, galaxies kneeling before his power. For a heartbeat, Ryan's body relaxed. His eyes half closed, the parasite was inside him now, threading through his nerves. It felt like fire and ice spreading at once, and it was almost beautiful. The alien woman's voice cut through the haze, sharp and desperate. "Ryan, look at me, do not give in. You must tear it off no matter the pain." Her glowing eyes locked on his, and for a moment, he saw not just her but every word she had said. Her people had given in. They had believed the lies. And they were gone. If he gave in now, humanity's first chance would be lost before it even began. Ryan roared, shaking violently, his muscles straining. He reached back, fingers digging into the black tendril fused into his neck. Agony tore through him as he pulled. It felt like ripping his own skin, his own nerves. Blood ran down his back, the tendril tightening in resistance. The voices screamed in his head, furious now. "Stop! You need us. You are nothing without us!" But Ryan screamed louder, a sound of pure human rage. With a final brutal pull, he tore the parasite free. The black tendril ripped from his flesh, writhing in his hand before he slammed it against the floor, stomping until it stopped moving. He collapsed forward, gasping, blood dripping down his neck. The alien woman stared at him in awe, tears in her glowing eyes. "You did it. You actually did it," she whispered. "No one ever tears it off once it enters. No one but you." Ryan's body shook with pain, but his eyes burned with fire. He spat on the dead fragment, his voice raw and broken. "You picked the wrong species." The ship trembled. The walls pulsing with rage, the hum returned, louder than ever. The parasite was not finished. It had lost a piece, but its will still filled the vessel. The alien reached for him, her voice urgent but steady. "You proved it can be torn away. You are not like us, Ryan. You are not like anyone. Humanity may truly be our last hope." Ryan forced himself to his feet. His fists clenched, every nerve in his body screamed, but his spirit stood unbroken. He turned toward the corridor, shadows moving again. "Then let's show them what hope looks like," he said. His voice was low, but it carried the weight of defiance. The parasite whispered again, angry now. "We are many. We will not stop." Ryan smirked, blood on his lips. "Neither do we."